Do you remember the perfect family that made you smile every Friday night? The Brady Bunch showed us what we thought was the happiest family on television. But what you're about to discover will shock you. Behind those bright smiles and happy endings, the real lives of these beloved actors were filled with heartbreak, addiction, and secrets that nobody saw coming. Today, we're going to take you on an emotional journey through the lives of the Brady Bunch cast members, and trust me, you'll never look at them the same way again. Let's start with the woman who played America's most beloved TV mom. Florence Henderson brought Carol Brady to life with her warm smile and gentle voice. She was born on Valentine's Day in 1934 in a small town in Indiana, and life wasn't easy for her growing up. Can you imagine having 9 brothers and sisters? That's what Florence dealt with as one of 10 children in a very poor family. Her father worked on a tobacco farm, and they barely had enough money to get by. But here's the heartbreaking part that most people never knew. Florence's childhood was filled with pain and abuse that she kept hidden for decades. The sweet, caring mother we saw on TV was actually covering up deep emotional scars that never really healed. She struggled with sadness and even got scared to perform on stage, which is pretty amazing when you think about how talented she was. Before she became Carol Brady, Florence was already a star on Broadway. She was even the first woman ever to host The Tonight Show, which was a huge deal back then. When she got the role of Carol Brady at age 35, she thought her life was perfect. But even during the show's success, her personal life was falling apart. Florence got married in 1956 and had 4 children, but her marriage was troubled. She later admitted to having affairs with other men, including a famous mayor from New York. This shocked many fans because they saw her as the perfect wife and mother. Her marriage ended in divorce in 1985, after nearly 30 years. But Florence found love again when she married a doctor who helped her deal with her depression and stage fright. This second marriage was much happier, but tragedy struck again when her husband died of cancer in 2002. Florence spent her final years alone, working on cooking shows and trying to stay connected with her fans. The saddest part is that Florence was quietly fighting heart disease during her last decade. Just 3 days before she died, she was still supporting her TV family, showing up to cheer on Maureen McCormick on Dancing with the Stars. On Thanksgiving weekend in 2016, Florence's heart finally gave out. She died suddenly at age 82, leaving behind a fortune of about $10 million and memories that will last forever. Now let's talk about Marcia Brady, played by Maureen McCormick. She was only 13 years old when she became the most famous teenager in America. With her beautiful blonde hair and perfect smile, Marcia was every girl's role model and every boy's crush. But behind that confidence was a young girl who was slowly losing herself. When the Brady Bunch ended, Maureen's world fell apart. She started using dangerous drugs like cocaine, which made her see things that weren't there and kept her awake for days. The drugs took over her life so completely that she even traded sexual favors just to get more. Can you imagine how far she had fallen from the perfect Marcia Brady? There's one story that shows just how bad things got. Maureen showed up to audition for the famous movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. But she was so high on drugs and hadn't slept for 3 days that she completely embarrassed herself. After that, movie directors were afraid to hire her because they thought she was unreliable. The 1980s and 1990s were the darkest time in Maureen's life. She battled with eating disorders, especially one called bulimia, where she would eat a lot of food and then make herself throw up. She was so depressed that she even threatened to jump off a balcony. Thankfully, a man named Michael Cummings saw her pain and didn't give up on her. He became her husband in 1985 and helped her start the long journey to get better. It took years of therapy and medicine, but Maureen slowly began to heal. In 1989, she had a daughter named Natalie, which gave her a new reason to fight for her life. She still had some setbacks and had to go to rehab several times, but she never completely gave up. In 2007, Maureen surprised everyone by joining a weight loss show called Celebrity Fit Club, where she publicly talked about her struggles for the first time. A year later, she wrote a book about her life called Here's the Story, which became a bestseller. People finally understood what she had been going through all those years. Today, at age 68, Maureen is still alive and doing much better. She lives peacefully with her family and has a net worth of about $4 million. She's proof that even when life seems hopeless, you can find your way back to happiness. The story of Robert Reed, who played Father Mike Brady, might be the saddest of all. Robert was born in 1932 and seemed like the perfect choice to play America's ideal dad. He was handsome, smart, and had a warm personality that made viewers trust him completely. But Robert was hiding a secret that he could never share with the world. In the 1970s, it was very dangerous for an actor to be gay. People weren't accepting like they are today, and Robert knew that if anyone found out about his sexuality, his career would be destroyed. So he lived two completely different lives. In public, he was the perfect family man. But in private, he was lonely and sad because he couldn't be honest about who he really was. Robert had a long-term partner that he loved deeply, but he could never talk about this relationship or even be seen with his partner in public. Imagine having to hide the person you love most in the world just to keep your job. This kind of stress and sadness ate away at Robert for years. After the Brady Bunch ended, Robert tried to prove he was a serious actor by taking roles in dramatic shows like Roots, which earned him an Emmy nomination. He was actually a very talented actor who could do much more than just play a TV dad, but people always saw him as Mike Brady first. As the years went on, Robert became more and more isolated. He never got married to a woman, never had children, and spent most of his time alone. He taught acting classes at UCLA and did some theater work, but his personal life was empty and painful. Then Robert got sick with two terrible diseases. First, he developed colon cancer, which is already very serious, but he also contracted HIV, which back then was almost always fatal, and carried a huge social stigma. Robert was so afraid of people finding out about the HIV that he kept it secret, even from some of his closest friends. Robert Reed died in May 1992, at only 59 years old. Officially, the doctor said he died from colon cancer, but later reports revealed that HIV had weakened his body and made the cancer much worse. He left behind about $1.5 million, but more importantly, he left behind a legacy of kindness and professionalism, even though his personal life was filled with so much pain. Barry Williams, who played eldest son Greg Brady, seemed to have it all. He was handsome, talented, and became a teenage heartthrob that girls all over America had crushes on. But being a teen star isn't as glamorous as it looks, and Barry learned that the hard way. When the Brady Bunch ended, Barry found himself trapped by his own success. He looked so much like Greg Brady that casting directors couldn't see him as anything else. He tried to break free by doing musical theater, performing in shows like Grease and The Sound of Music. But even on Broadway, people still called him Greg Brady. Barry's personal life was just as complicated as his career. He got married 3 times, which shows how hard it was for him to find lasting love. His first marriage was very short. His second marriage gave him a son named Brandon, but ended in divorce. And he also had a daughter with another woman. Managing relationships with multiple ex-partners while trying to restart his career was incredibly stressful. In 2001, Barry got into serious legal trouble with the Actors Union over a theater tour. They fined him $52,000, which was a lot of money for someone whose career was already struggling. It took 4 years to resolve the issue and get back in good standing with the union. But Barry never gave up. He wrote a book about his experiences called Growing Up Brady, which was even made into a TV movie. He started a podcast with his TV brother Christopher Knight and continued performing in Branson, Missouri, where he built a loyal following. In 2023, at age 69, Barry surprised everyone by competing on Dancing with the Stars, proving he still had the energy and charm that made Greg Brady so popular. Today, at age 70, Barry has a net worth of about $6 million and seems to have finally made peace with his Brady legacy. Christopher Knight's story is quite different from his TV brothers. Christopher played middle son Peter Brady, the funny kid who was always getting into harmless trouble. But when the show ended, Christopher made a choice that shocked everyone in Hollywood. Instead of trying to continue acting, Christopher walked away from show business completely. He was tired of being seen only as Peter Brady and decided to try something totally different. In the 1980s, he started working with computers, which was just becoming a big business. Christopher turned out to be a natural businessman. He got sales jobs with computer companies and was so good at it that he was named Employee of the Year. Then he started his own companies, creating software and 3D graphics programs. One of his companies was eventually sold for millions of dollars. But Christopher's biggest headlines came from his personal life, especially his marriage to Adrienne Curry. Adrienne was a model who won America's Next Top Model and was 25 years younger than Christopher. Their relationship was so unusual that they even had their own reality TV show called My Fair Brady. The age difference and constant media attention put too much pressure on their marriage. They divorced exactly 5 years after their wedding, on their anniversary date. It was Christopher's third divorce, which shows how difficult it was for him to balance fame with real relationships. Today, Christopher is 67 years old and has been married to his fourth wife since 2016. He lives quietly in Los Angeles with a net worth of about $10 million. Most of his money came from his business success, not his acting career, which makes him unique among the Brady kids. Ann B. Davis played Alice Nelson, the Brady family's beloved housekeeper. When she took the role in 1969, she was already 43 years old and an experienced actress. She had won 2 Emmy Awards for another TV show and seemed to have a perfect career ahead of her. But Ann's real life was much lonelier than Alice's cheerful personality suggested. She never got married and never had children, which she later said was one of her biggest regrets. When she made millions of people laugh as Alice, she went home to an empty house every night. The character of Alice was so popular that it became both a blessing and a curse for Ann. People loved seeing her in the Brady reunion specials and movies, but she could never really play any other type of character. She was stuck being the funny housekeeper for the rest of her career. In 1976, Ann made a surprising decision that shocked her friends and fans. She left Hollywood completely and moved to Denver to live with a religious community. She sold her house in Los Angeles and devoted her life to spiritual activities instead of acting. Ann lived quietly in religious communities for the rest of her life. As she got older, she developed hearing problems and had trouble getting around. On June 1, 2014, she fell in her bathroom and hit her head very badly. She was rushed to the hospital but couldn't recover from her injuries. Ann died at age 88, leaving behind about $2 million and countless happy memories for her fans. Eve Plum, who played middle daughter Jan Brady, had one of the most challenging experiences of all the Brady kids. She was only 11 years old when the show started, and the character of Jan was known for always feeling left out and ignored. Unfortunately, Eve's real life started to mirror her character's problems. When the Brady Bunch ended, Eve was just 16 years old and found it almost impossible to get other acting jobs. Everyone saw her as Jan Brady, and it was hard for directors to imagine her playing anyone else. She spent years in what she called professional limbo. Not really retired, but not really working either. In 1976, Eve tried to break away from her innocent Brady image by playing a teenage prostitute in a TV movie called Dawn, Portrait of a Teenage Runaway. The role got her good reviews from critics, but it shocked many Brady Bunch fans who weren't ready to see sweet little Jan in such a dark and mature role. Eve has always been very private about her personal life. She married businessman Ken Pace in 1995, and they decided not to have children. Their marriage has been stable and quiet, which is probably what Eve needed after growing up in the spotlight. Eve has appeared in a few Brady reunion projects over the years, but she's mostly focused on other interests like painting and making smart investments with her money. At age 67, she lives comfortably in California with a net worth of about $5 million. Susan Olsen played the youngest Brady daughter Cindy, and she was only 8 years old when the show began. Being so young when she became famous created unique challenges that followed her for decades. As Susan grew up, kids at school would tease her about Cindy's childish behavior on the show. There was one episode where Cindy was portrayed as a tattletale, and Susan got bullied about it at school. This kind of teasing made her feel ashamed and withdrawn during her teenage years. Susan tried to rebuild her identity through art, writing, and radio work, but she always seemed to come back to being known as Cindy Brady. She got married twice, first to Steve Ventimiglia for 2 years, then to Mitch Markwell in 1995. With Mitch, she had a son named Michael who was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. Raising a child with special needs while trying to maintain a career put enormous stress on Susan's second marriage, and it ended in divorce in 2004. Being a single mother while dealing with her own career struggles was incredibly difficult. In 2016, Susan got into trouble for making controversial comments online that offended many people in the LGBTQ community. She had to apologize and stay out of the public eye for a while to let the controversy die down. Today, Susan is 63 years old and lives quietly in California. She focuses on her art, taking care of her son, and occasionally appears at Brady Bunch anniversary events. Her net worth is estimated at about $2 million. Mike Lookinland, who played the youngest Brady son Bobby, was also just 8 years old when the show started. Like Susan, being a child star created problems that lasted well into his adult years. After the Brady Bunch ended, Mike struggled to find other acting roles and felt lost without the structure and attention that came with being on a hit TV show. During his 20s, he developed a serious drinking problem that nearly destroyed his life. In 1997, Mike's drinking led to a terrible car accident in Utah. He was driving under the influence when he lost control of his car and flipped it over. His blood alcohol level was more than 3 times the legal limit, and he was arrested. But this terrifying experience became the wake-up call he needed. Mike quit drinking completely and never had another drink. He realized that his acting career wasn't going to recover, so he made a dramatic change. He left Hollywood and moved to Salt Lake City, where he started a concrete business called Just Add Water Custom Concrete. This might seem like a strange career choice for a former child star, but it gave Mike the stability and purpose he needed. He specialized in making countertops, fireplaces, and decorative concrete products. It was honest work that had nothing to do with his past fame. Today, Mike is 64 years old and lives happily in Utah with his wife Kelly and their 2 sons. His net worth is about $2 million, earned through his business success rather than acting. He rarely talks about his Brady days, but seems content with the quiet life he's built for himself. Finally, let's remember Alan Melvin, who played Sam Franklin, Alice's boyfriend and later husband. Alan was 46 when he joined the Brady Bunch cast, and he was already an experienced actor with over 100 roles to his name. Alan had served in the Navy during World War II and worked on Broadway before finding success in television comedy. He was especially famous for his voice acting work and appeared in shows like All in the Family and Gomer Pyle. While Alan was successful in comedy, he always regretted not getting chances to do serious dramatic acting. He felt trapped by his funny guy image, much like how the Brady kids felt trapped by their characters. But Alan's personal life was much happier than most of his Brady co-stars. He married his wife Amalia in 1944, and they stayed together for over 60 years until his death. They had 2 children and maintained a strong, loving family, despite the pressures of Hollywood. Alan continued working in television and voice acting until the 1990s. He was the voice of many cartoon characters that you might remember from your childhood. He officially retired after doing voice work for a Scooby-Doo movie in 1994. On January 17, 2008, just a month before his 85th birthday, Alan died in Los Angeles after fighting cancer for a long time. He left behind about $1 million and a legacy of bringing laughter to millions of people. Looking back at all these stories, it's clear that the Brady Bunch cast faced many of the same challenges that real families deal with. They struggled with addiction, depression, failed marriages, financial problems, and health issues. The difference was that they had to deal with these problems while being constantly reminded of the perfect family they once pretended to be on television. But their stories also show us something beautiful about human resilience. Despite all their struggles, most of the Brady cast members found ways to rebuild their lives and discover happiness on their own terms. Florence Henderson kept working and spreading joy until her final days. Maureen McCormick overcame addiction and became an advocate for others facing similar struggles. Barry Williams embraced his Brady legacy and found new ways to entertain people. Christopher Knight built a successful business empire. The others found peace in quieter lives away from the spotlight. The Brady Bunch taught us that families stick together through good times and bad times. In real life, this TV family supported each other through their darkest moments and celebrated each other's victories. They remained close friends long after the cameras stopped rolling, which says something wonderful about the bond they created during those 5 years of filming. So the next time you watch an old episode of The Brady Bunch, remember that behind those scripted happy endings were real people dealing with real problems, just like the rest of us. Their struggles make their performances even more remarkable, because they were able to bring so much joy to our lives, even when their own lives were dull, difficult. If you enjoyed learning about the real lives behind the Brady Bunch, please give this video a like and share it with your friends and family. There are so many more untold stories about your favorite TV shows and movie stars that we can't wait to share with you. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. What other classic TV shows would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.